Summer can feel like it is completely crazy with their kids running around and vacations and just the beautiful sunny weather. But you are called to this business, so how in the world do you fit your business in and get things done while also enjoying your family? Today's episode is for you if you are feeling really stressed in this season or like you're not quite getting enough things done. So you're not going to want to miss this, so stick around. If you're feeling God call you to pivot life as you know it by leaving your career plans to start an online business and you're terrified of how you'd ever actually pull that off, then you're a mama with a calling and this is the podcast for you. Here's where we'll talk about everything from choosing the right business and running it as a mom to biblical inspiration and motivation to conquer your fears. Because even though it's causing you some anxiety, you're also excited because you know God's calling you to it. And that means you're headed to a life with more joy, fulfillment, and purpose like you've always wanted. Hi, I'm Alexia Carrillo, fellow mama with a calling, and I'm passionate about helping other moms like you step into their calling and not stay stuck in their career for fear of going against the grain. I believe it's okay to pivot and follow God's calling on your life without the guilt or shame for not doing what the world says you should do. This is the Mama with a Calling podcast, where we'll figure out how you can actually make this wild calling on your life become a reality. Let's grab some coffee and dive in. Hey, welcome back to the Mama with a Calling podcast. This is Alexia. Today I want to share with you one of the topics that I just covered in a challenge that I did recently in my Facebook group it was centered all around how to confidently pursue your calling. Because a lot of times we have this calling, we know it's something that we're supposed to do, but there are so many things that hold us back. And the thing that God has put on my heart is to help you guys not be held back, step forward, break through all of the mental blocks, all of the other blocks that come up in your life so that you can fully do what God is asking you to do and step up and say yes. So this last day of the challenge, I just thought was such a great way to end the challenge. It was like the cherry on top. And I really wanted to make sure that even if you aren't in my group, even if you didn't do the challenge, that you had a chance to hear what we covered that last day. And that was basically how to fully live and become this new identity, right? Because you have a calling, you have this thing that God is calling you to do, because God calls all of his children to do something. We're all part of the body of Christ. That was what I did last episode, right? And figuring out what that something is a big part of that. But even if you know what it is, there's then going to come all of these blocks about actually stepping into that, right? You might have money mindset blocks, or you might have the decision fatigue block, like actually choosing and stepping out in faith, right? Those are the other things I talked about in the challenge the other days. But even with all of that, that's all kind of mindset. Ultimately, the final hurdle, as it were, is to become this new person. Because before God called you to be an entrepreneur, you weren't an entrepreneur, right? You were maybe a working mom, or maybe you were a stay-at-home mom. Like, you didn't have this identity in you. And taking on a new title, a new part of you like this, recognizing, God had it in you all along, but you weren't seeing it, right? You didn't own it as an entrepreneur. And getting from where you were to where you need to be is really challenging. Learning how to think like an entrepreneur, learning how to, how in the world are you going to fit this in? Because life feels really, really busy already. So how do we fit this new part, this entrepreneur part, into our lives? Because God has called you, he's equipping you, and he's preparing the way, and he's going to provide for you, right? You're not going to let the lies of the enemy stop you, keep you stuck. Because if you allow him to keep you stuck, you're never going to fully step into your calling and see what God has for you. And one of the biggest lies that enemies will tell you is that you don't have time to grow your business. And as busy moms, especially if you're still in your 9-to-5, one of the biggest things that can almost feel insurmountable is finding time for your business. But I'm hoping that through this podcast episode, and if you have a chance, go back and listen to the challenge videos. Those are in the Facebook group. The link is, you can just look on Facebook, Mama with a Calling Community, or the link is on Instagram in my bio there. If you have a chance, go listen to those because they will really light that fire under you to get you excited to show up for your business. But even if you have all that excitement and motivation, if you are trying day in and day out to work on your business, but you keep feeling like life is just stopping you at every turn, that excitement is going to wane. Right? You're eventually maybe even going to give up altogether. And we do not want that, right? That's what I'm called to do, is to keep you going because you can't give up. This is what God has called you to do. God needs you to keep going. He wants you to keep going. Again, this is a way the enemy will try to keep you from doing what God wants. So I want you to think about this, right? You sit down to work on your business and suddenly your kids start going crazy, or there's a giant mess to clean up, or somebody calls you with an errand, or whatever it is. And yes, you're the mom. So these things, they're a distraction, but you also have to tend to them. But they can also change your entire demeanor if you're not prepared for them to happen. And these things will happen. So if you're constantly frustrated, if you're stressed out, if you're on edge and all of that because of all the things that are coming up in this new role that you have, you're not exactly going to want to sit and record a podcast or create a product or write the blog post. You're just going to be really stressed out and overwhelmed. So I want to give you some tips on how to make time for your business and mentally prepare yourself to do whatever it takes to make sure it happens. So first, I want to say that we need to acknowledge that it is hard to work at home with kids. It's hard to work on a business as a side hustle. It's just hard to start this new thing. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. And it doesn't mean that it has to be miserably hard, but it's not just going to fall into your lap. And I think you know that, but I just want to acknowledge that because I think a lot of times we, for some reason, think that it is supposed to be easy for us. Like we would never say that to somebody else, like, oh, stop complaining. It's supposed to be so easy. But for some reason for ourselves, we think that we need to toughen up and just deal with it. But your family has a lot of needs and they aren't going to just sit in front of the TV all day. I'm not saying it's bad for them to watch TV sometimes. Like I've done that definitely. But even if you said, do whatever you want all day, they're still not going to sit in front of the TV all day while you just work in a peaceful, quiet office. At least that's not how it goes in my house. So give yourself that grace. You aren't going to have these big uninterrupted times to work on your business unless you create that space. I mean, I really thought that was going to happen naturally when I started working from home, but that just caused a lot of stress because I spent a lot of time waiting for my time to free up to be able to work. And all I found was that I just got super frustrated because it never happened. And I was burnt out trying to do all the things that just kind of came at me instead of making specific time and being intentional with my time. I just kind of did whatever kind of showed up. And that created a ton of stress because I didn't have a clue how to balance any of it. I didn't know how to create this schedule that worked for me. Now, I know that balance is like a no word to moms, but I don't think it has to be. Balance doesn't have to mean equal, right? I mean, I know it kind of does, but I mean, what I mean when I say balance for us is it means doing all the things you want to do. Focusing on what matters to you in a way that aligns with where God has you in this season. So figuring out how to give every aspect of your life, whether it be your marriage, taking care of yourself, your fitness, your family, your business, all of it gets enough time, whatever that looks like for you. So making sure that you're spending time with your family and doing all those things is going to really help alleviate a lot of that stress and figuring out a way to make sure that they all get some attention. And in some seasons, some may get more than others, and that's okay too. For example, right now, I only get 10 to 15 hours a week to work on my business because my son isn't home with me most days. But in the fall, he's starting kindergarten. Yay! And things are going to change. So instead of focusing the majority of my time on him and the home, I will then get to spend more time on my business. But that means that when I do see him, I will be no business at all, right? So I can keep that balance. I'm not just going to work nights and all day and never spend time with my son. But right now it's summer. And so that looks totally different. I'm only getting a little bit of time to work on my business and spending a lot of time with him outdoors, making memories of our last kind of summer before he starts school. And really, what this looks like for you 100% depends on you, your situation, and where God is leading you. It's really tempting to look online or look outside of yourself for what you should do here. But that just invites in mom guilt, and we don't want mom guilt, right? Thinking that you should spend more or less time in any of those areas based on what other people think in their lives. It's going to create a lot of mom guilt and a lot of shame. That's what I'm looking for. Shame. You got to figure out what works for you, and you'll just get a sense of peace around that, whatever that is. So this leads into the second step, which is being intentional with your time, like all of your time. When you have a 9-to-5, it almost feels like your time is controlled for you, and you just kind of fit your business in on like the outskirts of life, right? But even if you have a 9-to-5, you still have to be intentional about what you're doing with all of your time at work, right? And then the time that you're not in your 9-to-5, you don't just kind of sit there. You have plans. You think about maybe a general routine for your life. And this becomes really, really important when you start working from home, because then you are really in control of your time. And if you're not careful, it'll just totally get away from you. And this is what happened to me. When I first started working from home, I didn't think that I needed routines or plans or anything like that, which sounds kind of crazy now that I'm saying it. But I think a big part of that was the rebellion of leaving the constraint of the 9-to-5. Like I left and I was like, I'm doing whatever I want. And we want that freedom, right? So if you're still in your 9-to-5, hear me when I say, don't leave your 9-to-5 and come home and just kind of do whatever you want. I mean, you can do whatever you want, but creating a routine, creating a schedule that creates the life you want, because otherwise it will feel chaotic. This goes back to the idea of balancing, right? You want to balance all the things that you have to do and then the things that you want to do, which is hopefully those two things align. And really, that's what you're going for here, is that you're going to create a life that aligns with what you're feeling God call you to do and the things that you want to do. But it won't just happen out of thin air, right? So one of the things that's very helpful to start with is to do a routine or time blocking. So I personally like to do a combination of the two, where it's actually a routine for general tasks, and then I have time blocking. So the routine is actually like on Mondays, I'm doing mostly family things. And then on Tuesdays, I'm doing mostly business things, like that kind of a routine. Or I have like my morning routine, right? The way we get ready in the morning, the way we do our evening routine, all of those kinds of things. But time blocking is that when it's business time, what am I doing, right? What is the specific thing that I'm going to do for 1 hour, 2 hour, whatever that looks like? The way I found this actually works best for me is I say, what are all the things that are important to me? What are all the things that I want to get done? And I kind of jot those down into different categories. And then I look at my week and I say, where can I get them in? How can I fit these things in? It's a non-negotiable for me that I spend time with God every single day. I want it to be in the mornings because I want to wake up early and spend an hour or 2 hours in the morning, because otherwise I'm not going to do it the rest of the day. And this really helps ground me and is important for me and helps me stay connected. That's actually been a huge factor in reducing my stress as well, just because I can kind of give it all to God and hear a word from Him. And that's really important. So that goes on my schedule every single day in the morning. It's not, I can't take coaching calls during that time. I'm not cleaning house during that time. That is what's happening. And really what you want to do is you want to look at the time you have and decide what you want to accomplish in those times. And then make sure, like I said, that it's not all your business or all your family, because you'll never, if you focus all on your family, you'll never grow your business. But if you're only with your family, if you're only with your business, you will neglect your family. Like we don't want to do that, right? So just be really honest with yourself about how much time you have to spend on your business. And that's what this will help you do. It'll help you see how much time you have when you have all the other things in life and where can you fit your business in. And one of the things that will probably come out of this is that you might see that you have to be really honest with yourself. If you're only taking 5 hours a week to work on your business, then you might realize that the goals you have need more than 5 hours. So really adjusting, either asking yourself, praying over it. Do I want to work more hours and I could take away other things? Or is 5 hours feels really good for me. So I need to bring down the business goals, because if you have a business, you probably have this really big vision. You have all these things you want to do. You're really excited about it, but that doesn't always mean that we can just spend 40 hours a week working on our business as whatever season we're in, as work-at-home moms, or even as moms with 9 to 5. So if you're finding that you actually want to work more time on your business, this is where it becomes a little uncomfortable, because you might have to ask yourself if you are doing things that you really maybe don't need to do. And I know that can be really tough. We don't want to shame ourselves. We don't want to get mad at ourselves or anything like that. But look at your life, like really objectively, and say, do I need to be watching TV this much? Or do I spend a lot of time kind of scrolling social media? I know that's where I get lost a lot of times. I have this like reflex to pick up my phone. So I started deleting Facebook or Instagram off my phone. And I definitely don't put TikTok on there. No way. Because I will just get lost in that. But really asking yourself, what are some things that I need to do? Like maybe watching TV is something you do to unwind, and that's self-care for you. Totally fine. But maybe it doesn't need to be, 3 hours, right? Like just sort of evaluating that and determining what does that really look like? So you have to be really honest with yourself about where you're spending your time and what things you can cut out to make this business happen, because it's not going to just be easy. There's a difference in God calling you to something and it being something that you should do and feeling peace about it, versus it's just easy coasting through life, right? In fact, God is probably going to want to mold your character and change you in some ways to become the person that now shows up for a business, that now knows how to be an entrepreneur and a mom and all these new things, right? So if you're finding that you love lounging by the pool and you're doing that every single Saturday for 4 to 5 hours, maybe that's time that you could have been spending on your business. Now, that could be part of your self-care, like I was saying, and that's totally fine. Or maybe it's your family time, and that's totally fine too. But just paying attention and saying, do I really need to spend that 4 hours doing that? What I also want to point out is when we do these kind of things, they're actually an indication of something deeper, right? So I know for me that if I start doing things like this and really start to kind of quote unquote waste time, it's because it's really hard in my business, right? Something is feeling really challenging or vulnerable. So maybe I need to record a podcast, but I'm really nervous about the topic, or maybe I don't know what to do the topic on. So I'll just turn on some Netflix instead. Or maybe I need to create a new product, and that's hard I'm excited about the product, but at the same time, it's hard to create for me personally. It's just hard to be creative. And so it's much easier to grab my phone and say, oh, I'm working and I'm on Instagram, right? So sometimes we use those other activities to actually avoid doing the work that we're supposed to be doing. And like I said, I can totally say this from experience, because it's our human nature. So again, being really mindful of what you're doing with your time. The other thing that goes along with being mindful is that during each time block, once you've got it set up and you're like, okay, I'm going to spend this many hours on my business this week, and I'm going to have these tasks that are going to be done during kid-free time versus not kid-free time. I need to ask for help sometimes, whatever that looks like. Now, I want you to pay attention to being mindful in each time block. So what does that mean? That means that when you have family time and you are with your kids, you're not thinking or worrying about anything to do with your business, right? I know it's easier said than done, but you really want to be intentional about that, because I can say from personal experience that when I tried to play with my son and spend time with him and also think of stuff for my business, I wasn't doing a good job at either one of those. And in fact, I was actually kind of stressed and irritable with him because I'm trying to think about my business and thinking about all the things I have to do and trying to focus, and he's talking and wants to play. So that doesn't work. So really giving each block the attention that it deserves and keeping your mind on that task. And that'll prevent a lot of stress, because you're going to be focused on each block with intention and making sure that you're getting things done and living the life that you want to live. Another topic I want to talk about around this that will come up as you're trying to create this schedule of fitting your business into your life is mom guilt. Right? So we all think of mom guilt as something that we feel bad about when we do things as a mom, or in this case, what will happen is when you try to work on your business, you might feel bad that you're working on your business instead of being with your family. While simultaneously, there might be some mom guilt around not having your business be more successful so that you can actually be with your family more and provide for them more. So if we let any of that mom guilt in and really kind of take over our thoughts, it is not going to help us or serve us. Now, in some ways, mom guilt can motivate you to sort of make some changes and make some shifts. But for the most part, I would say that really a lot of mom guilt comes in from shame. And it comes in from shame from the outside world's expectations of us, whether anybody is actually saying something to you, or it could just be self-inflicted, like these perceptions that you have. And you're just assuming that people outside of you are thinking a certain way, or that you should be a certain way as a mom, especially as a work-at-home mom, because it feels like it's supposed to be really easy and glamorous somehow. And it is not. So for mom guilt, we want to say to ourselves how important it is that we have fulfilled our calling, because God called us to both be a mom and have a business. So it's not like when you're running your business and doing things for your business that you're doing something wrong. You're supposed to be doing that. Is what God called you to do. And when you're with your kids, you're not doing something wrong. You're not supposed to be, pushing them aside to work on your business all the time because you're called to be a mom. And so it depends on the season you're in and what God is leading you to. But if you're in a season where it's spending more time with your kids, and because they're little, or maybe they're not little, maybe you just want to spend time with them, and you also really want to grow your business, just having that balance and being okay with that. So with mom guilt, it can show up in so many different ways. And really the way I keep trying to overcome it, because it does keep coming in different ways, are two main things. Number one, I tell myself that my son is seeing me pursue something that God has put on my heart. And I tell him that. When I'm working on my business, I say, this is what God asked me to do, and I'm going to work on my business. I want him to know that when he goes through life, he gets to pursue what God has called him to do. Right? So thinking about that for your kids, when they're asking what you're doing, if they never ever see you work, how do they know that you're doing what God's called you to do? How do they see that you are making an effort and you're taking this seriously if you only work when your kids are asleep or not there? Right? And number two, the second thing I tell myself is that I work and provide for my family as a mom, and that's okay too. That it's good for both me and my son for him to play independently. That's great for him. And that he sees the value of work and all of those things. So whatever those are for you, whatever values that you bring up when you think about you working on your business, recall those when you're starting to feel that mom guilt. So at the end of the day, your business matters. You've been called to do this, and not doing it and not finding a way to make it happen is basically telling God, no, not right now. And acting like you are in control, right? You didn't intentionally do that, but it is so easy to do that and us not even realize it. So with summer here, I know this season can feel like things are crazy, like you already don't have time to fit everything in, and it's just easier to push the business to the back burner. You'll do it when you have more time. And we know what happens next, right? You turn around and the fall is here and you haven't done anything on your business, or maybe not as much as you wanted to, and you're not any closer to making this your full-time business, right? And I get it. Life gets crazy. But if you want to do that, you'll have to spend intentional time on your business and hear what God wants you to do with it and take specific action steps, even if they're small ones and even if it's hard, because otherwise you're going to turn around, it's going to be fall, and you're going to be regretting that you didn't do anything. And you're called to this. So with that, I wanted to let you guys know that I just opened the doors to a new program called Faith, Family, and Focus Mastermind. I am so excited about this. It is going to be such a great 12 weeks where we get together every single week and help you focus on what is God asking you to do and what are the things you can do to make it happen in your life. And you might be thinking, like, this 12 weeks, that's such a long time, or this is a terrible time for business. I can't work on my business right now. Summer's crazy. But actually, that's exactly why you need this group program, because life happens and it's always going to happen. You've got things that God has put on your heart and things that he's asking you to do. And he didn't say when life calms down or when life is easier. And let's be real, it's always going to be crazy with kids. In this mastermind, we're going to meet weekly and you're going to get a chance to be on the hot seat. So you're going to do a hot seat style where you're going to share about your business, what you're working on. You're going to get feedback and coaching where you need it, where you want it. And it'll provide a lot of accountability so you don't have another week go by where you say, what did I even get done on my business, right? But I also want to say that it's not just about working your butt off this summer. That's not it at all. It's just making sure that you keep God as your focus around your business, that you enjoy time with your family, and you dedicate some time, whatever that looks like, to your business, even if it's one small task each week. So in between meetings, you'll also have access to me and the rest of the group to ask any questions that come up. I've got a lot of tech experience in the online business space. So any of those questions, I'm happy to help. And basically, it's a way for you to make sure that you keep pursuing your calling of running an online business, because the people that you're going to impact, they need you. They need you to keep going. And it's also going to have a huge impact on your family. So I don't want this season of hectic busyness to stop you from making the progress that you need to make. So if you're interested, the applications are open until Sunday, June 27th, and Thursday, June 24th. There's early bird bonuses that are ending. So the early bird bonuses are, you get $75 off and you get an extra bonus one-on-one coaching session that you can use anytime over the next few months. So just send me a message on Instagram if you're interested, and I will send you the application. And I will say this is an intimate group of women. It's not just for everyone. And I'm going to pray over each and every person that applies. Anybody who's listening to this, I have been praying that you would hear these words. So if that's you, really ask yourself and consider, what does God want me to do right now? Does this sound like it's something that I should do? And I really think that God's going to put together a great group of women. This program is for you if you are ready to get serious about your business and are willing to put a few hours a week at least into working on your business. And you should have a business idea, or you can already have a business. Having the idea is great because this can be your chance to really start putting those pieces into place. And basically, if you're constantly finding yourself frustrated that you're not taking consistent action, then this group is perfect for you. It's not great for you if you just want to have a hobby blog or a podcast for fun, or you want some kind of quick way to make a bunch of money, or you don't want any feedback, or you don't want any accountability, then obviously this group is not for you. So again, if you have any questions, just send me a DM. I would love to hop on a call with you if you have any, if you want to know, like, is this the right fit for me? You want to learn more about the group, anything like that. I would love for you to apply. If you're even slightly interested, go ahead and apply. I'll reach out to you and we'll be in touch. So I hope you guys found a lot of value from this episode. I hope it helps you just be really intentional about your time this summer as you're growing your business and focusing on your family and all the things that are important for you. And I will see you guys next time. And in the meantime, keep pursuing your calling. Thanks for listening to the Mama with a Calling podcast. As always, you'll find the show notes for today's episode at mamawithacalling.com/podcast. Really quick before you head out, are you loving these episodes? To make sure this podcast gets in the ears of as many mamas as possible, please head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. I'm going to be reading your reviews on the podcast, so I can't wait to hear from you. Also, if you know someone that needs to hear these episodes, grab a screenshot and share it on Instagram, and don't forget to tag me at Mama with a Calling so I can share it in my stories. Until next time, keep pursuing your calling.